Hello there my friends, my name is Riskfish and today I'm bringing you a speculation video on Warhammer Total War in order to find out the possible start locations of Eltharion the Grim and Grom the Paunch on both the Mortal Empires and Vortex map. Although it's not the main point of this video, I am going to start by establishing why I think that Eltharion the Grim and Grom the Paunch will be in either the next DLC or one of the DLCs for Warhammer 2. So as CA have stated, the Greenskins will be the next faction to be reworked. When the Empire was reworked in the Empire Undivided update, the accompanying DLC, The Hunter and the Beast, included an Empire 8th edition Lord, Marcus Wolfhart, so expecting an 8th edition Greenskin Lord alongside the Greenskin rework is not an unreasonable assumption. CA have also stated that they want to bring all factions to the same standard, and the High Elves are the only Warhammer 2 core race that do not have a second Lord pack, which is a situation shared by most of the old world races from Warhammer 1. Additionally, the only remaining 8th edition Lord for the High Elves is Eltharion the Grim, who is best known for his hatred of Greenskins and his iconic rival with Grom the Paunch, who is another 8th edition Lord. Additionally, the Greenskins are by far the race most needing of a Lord pack. They are missing units such as the Night Goblin Netters, Savage Orc Big Stabbers, River Trolls, Stone Trolls, Snotling Pumpwagons, Spear Chuckers, and a lot of weapon variants all from 8th edition, in addition to many units from other sources. Now that I have explained the basis for my argument, let's discuss the possible start locations for Grom and Eltharion. In the Doomsayer update, a new Greenskin faction, the Leafcutter tribe, were added to both the Vortex and Mortal Empires campaign, interestingly in very different locations. Normally playable factions in the Vortex, whose start location is not already on the Mortal Empires map, are moved onto it. This is the case of Queek Headtaker, who is moved from Yutek in the southern jungle at the bottom of the Southlands to Korok Urud in the Charnel Valley, while non-playable factions such as the Bloodhole Coven in Western Lustria are not moved onto the Mortal Empires map. This is a big hint that CA are planning to make the Leafcutter tribe playable, but there is actually more evidence that goes a step further. The Leafcutter tribes are moved into a new province called the Misty Hills, and Grom is from the Misty Mountains, which is a clear reference and could indicate that it was added for Grom. One of the settlements in this province is also called Black Pit, a notorious goblin stronghold. The fact that Black Pit used to have its own banner in Call of the Beastmen and now has been replaced with a cross-game faction is also telling. The other coastal location in the province is also Wrecker's Point, which is very near to where Grom quite literally wrecked the Imperial fleet before sailing on to Ulthuan, which could be another reference. The location of the actual province itself is also very telling, as it is in the slap bang middle of the path of Grom's war, giving players the option to either go back into the old world and recreate Grom's sacking of the Empire and Null, or recreate his sailing on to Ulthuan and his rivalry with Eltharion the Grim. It could also hint that Snagler Grobspit, an 8th edition hero, will be the legendary hero for the Leafcutter faction, as he is only connected with the Black Pit and one particular unit of Spider Riders called the Death Creepers. Forest Goblins are also not 8th edition and so unlikely to be added before the numerous actual missing units from the Greenskins 8th edition. Eltharion's start position is more debatable. One thing you might notice is that Yivris, Eltharion's home territory, is 2 provinces in the Vortex and only 1 province in Mortal Empires. Eltharion's most associated settlements is Tor Yivris, which is in the northern section, so South Yivris could have been added to separate Eltharion and Tyrion, as CA normally don't like lords of the same race to start in adjacent provinces. As a side note, there is also a post on the Warhammer forums called Eltharion Might Start in Tor Elisar by Arcanai Forever, that points out that Tor Elisar faction has a unique stance on climates, which is unique to playable high elf factions such as Avalorn, Lawmasters and Nagaroth. He goes on to point out that Tor Elisar is the only non-playable faction to have such a stance and could be a placeholder for Eltharion in the Vortex campaign. Either way, it is unlikely that Eltharion will start on Ulthuan in Mortal Empires, because Yivris becomes one province that borders Tyrion and Lothern, which, as we've discussed earlier, would mean that 2 lords of the same race would be in adjacent provinces, which CA don't tend to like, and it wouldn't really add much to the variety of High Elves with no new enemies and essentially just a very tweaked start location. One new start location that could add a lot of this variety to the High Elves is actually the Badlands. After the defeat of Grom, Eltharion led an army to the Badlands with the goal of wiping out the greenskin threat. This gives the High Elves a starting position with much needed variety, fighting against the greenskins, dwarves and the southern realms. The question is, however, where exactly in the Badlands could Eltharion start, and this is actually revealed in a quote from the High Elves 8th edition. Atop his Griffin Stormwing, Eltharion swept through the Badlands like a wind of blades. He slaughtered warbuzzers and ran their armies to ruin. He toppled orc fortresses that had survived earthquakes, Bretonnian crusades and the vengeance of the dwarves, yet miraculously there always seemed to be more greenskins for him to fight. Finally Eltharion learned the truth. His reputation had spread so far and wide that warbusters were actually seeking his army, knowing that the Pointhead would give him a proper fight. This revelation ended Eltharion's battles in the Badlands. If we're going to narrow Eltharion's start position down, the first thing to do is to establish which provinces are part of the Badlands. CA quite helpfully has named 3 of them as the Western, Eastern and Southern Badlands. However, according to the lore, Death Pass, Blightwater, Blood River Valley and the Desolation of Nagash could all be considered part of the Badlands as well. As I mentioned earlier though, CA don't like lords sharing provinces, so that can instantly remove Death Pass, Blightwater and the Western Badlands from our list. We also know that CA bases the game overwhelmingly off 8th edition, and Thoric Ironbrew, the last remaining 8th edition lord for the dwarves, is the rune lord of Karak Ozul, which is located in Desolation of Nagash. The Southern Badlands can also be ruled out because Galbraith is built on the ruined capital of the Strigossi Empire, Morkane, which is represented in the game by the unique building, the Ruins of Morkane, and are famous for being inhabited and ruled over by ghouls, which are led by a ghoul king, who could in fact be Usharon. Even Wussaron of the Necroach bloodline has a connection to the city. This means that the city could be used as a start position for either the Strigossi Empire or the Necroach Brotherhood if they are made playable in the game, as both factions are already actually in the game. I should point out that the vampire counts have all their 8th edition lords already, so any further lords will have to come from other sources, which is what makes these 2 lords viable. The 2 remaining provinces are Blood River Valley and Eastern Plaguelands. The evidence we have implies that Eltharion went not only into the Badlands, but deep into the heart of Greenskin territory. Blood River Valley is located at the edge of the Badlands and Greenskin territory, and is primarily inhabited by dwarves and bordered by the Border Princes, which make it unlikely. We also know that he toppled orc fortresses, and there is actually one in the Eastern Badlands called Crookfang Fort. This is near the Greenskin front line with the dwarves, so it has definitely survived the vengeance of the dwarves. It also mentions that the fortresses he faced had survived earthquakes, and for the geography students out there, the World's Edge Mountains are probably located on a convergent plate boundary, which could be a source of earthquakes, in which the Eastern Badlands is pretty much located in the centre of. All this suggests that Eltharion could be in the Eastern Badlands near Crookfang Fort. And that concludes my video. If you stayed to the end, thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it. I have responded to some feedback from the last video in which people wanted to see more pictures and diagrams, because I do understand that I am sometimes quite wordy. If anyone else has any further suggestions on how I can improve the videos, I'd be glad to hear them. Or if you found any other evidence about upcoming DLCs, I'd also like to know, so if you could just drop that in the comments, I'll take a look. I'm also looking forward to the Shadow and the Blade DLC and especially the quality of life update that will come with it, because there's very likely to be even more hints coming as to what is coming in the future. So once again, thank you very much for staying to the end, and I hope to see you next time.